What's up, everybody? This is Gray here. And on today's topic, I want to kind of go over some tips to get the most out of your garden. I know when people first get into garden, things can be a bit overwhelming just because people look at the cost in regards to starting specific types of garden. And what I mean by that is, sure, getting a couple pots and putting them on your patio, not so much of a pocket crunch, you know what I mean? But when you start expanding to a larger size, let's say like I got about 400 square feet, and people say, Gray, how did you do that? You know what I mean? Because they look at how much did it cost you for those grow bags? How much did it cost you for the plants and the seeds, the starts? How much did it cost you to do these trellises? Like this huge investment. And some people get a little scared away from that whole large scale gardening, or even, it's not even large scale, it's more of a medium scale gardening or urban gardening. And so I want to kind of touch on some tips for you folks to show you that, yes, initially, like on almost anything that you do, like when you initially get into prepping, it can seem overwhelming and kind of cost a lot more money than you would expect. But you have to look at that initial investment and the long-term investment and how it's going to save you money coming down the road. Things are getting tight all around with things like inflation, food costs, and everything that's been soaring in prices, even fertilizer. We've even seen seeds and stuff like that go pretty high. Now, here's the benefit. Once you start gardening, your first year might be your most intriguing year because you're going to learn what works for you in your zone. I'm here in zone 9B. And everybody differs, you know what I mean? But we can learn from someone who's up in Wisconsin, someone who's up in California, someone who's up in New Mexico. We can learn a lot of different things from those folks. I've learned a lot of different things from desert climates and very hot and humid climates and what plants might work best for me. But that's besides the point. What I want to go into is after that first year and you run some of your trials and tribulations and you kind of deal with things as they come, then you learn how you can maximize your garden. And what I mean by that is like sweet potatoes. And I'm going to do a video down the road of growing sweet potatoes because I'm going to have to rethink everything that's going on with my garden. I know we had some discussions about growing regular potatoes, but the heat is getting very intense in Florida. I mean, it got to 92 degrees today with the humidity. It was just been, it's still hot, folks. It's still hot. And some of the plants are not doing as well as they should. So that being said, friendly bees, eh? That being said, I want to show you what I'm planning on probably going to do is I'm going to do how to show you how to do like sweet potato slips, how easy that is, and how a sweet potato mother plant technically can just give you more and more and more sweet potatoes. So that's a very nutritional, caloric dense food that you can grow very easily in most climates, especially here down in the south. Up north, I know you guys have the more cooler weather, so you, of course, you'd have to figure how to plan that out, but you can bring it inside, and there's ways to do that, but I'm not going to, I may go over that when I do the sweet potato video, but like my strawberries, you know what I mean? How the strawberries do certain things that you can cut off some of their tendrils that you can cut off that have roots, and I'm going to get up close with this couple of these things and show you. Behind here you can't see, but like I said, I'm going to get close to some of this stuff. Let's say some of the plants that you grow, if you let them go to flower, then you have seeds for the following year. So that's a freebie. You've invested, let's say, $1, $2, $3, whatever you've invested in those seeds to grow those plants. Now, if you let certain things go to flower, you can use those seeds for your following year, and then and so on. Also, what else do we have here? I'm trying to think, like the pole bean or my purple hall piece. They're growing so profusely that outside of just growing for myself, I'll have seeds for next year, because that's basically what this is. All the seeds that I harvest off the one plant that I bought last year, or the one seedling that I bought last year. Was it a seedling or a seed? I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, now I have like 5. And this year, with the amount of beans that I'm growing, I'm saving tons and tons of money. Now, when it comes to soil, that's going to be another question. Well, people say, well, you know, soil can cost a lot of money. Depending if you're doing grow bags, if you're putting it in the ground, if you're doing large raised garden beds, yes, initially, certain things are going to cost you a lot more. That nice, rich soil, fertilizers and compost, you know, you're trying to build all this stuff up, and it does take time. But I'm telling you, folks, it will be worthwhile. The enjoyability of being in the garden and growing your own food and not having to depend on the grocery store or any type of other situations that might be happening around you, let's say like the drought out west, and things like that, are very truly beneficial to you the gardener. Like I said, I'm no expert in this. This is my second year of gardening, but I have learned so much, not only from all the research that I've done and gardening myself on the hands-on activities that I do in my garden, but from you, the viewers. And that's what I love about you folks, is that if you ever have any tips beyond what I go over, drop them down in the comments. Believe it or not, a lot of other folks will interact with you folks and kind of like touch on different things and share information depending on what zone you're in. That being said, I always like to plug the Discord, because in the Discord we have a gardening section, and folks are always sharing their harvest, what they're planting, issues they run into, how do they resolve them. So it's not just me, folks, it's the great community that makes this what it is. All right, enough of me rambling on, folks. Let's kind of go around the garden a little bit and see how what I'm talking about and how to repurpose some of these things. And I guess I don't know if that's a great word, to repurpose, but how you can yield more from your initial investment, including soil. And I know I didn't finish on the soil topic because I get sidetracked sometimes, but that's what happens when you're just going off the top of your head because you have so much information coming in. But I did spend a lot of money on soil. I did shop smart though. I got some cheap topsoil, 40-pound bags for like $5. And then I was smart enough to do a little bit of research to grab the really good stuff and save that for that top layer of my gardens. Now, what I plan on doing once I have a actual full property, because I think next year we'll probably be doing raised beds in the new home that we're going to be moving into. More urban homesteading, folks. At least for, I don't know, for the foreseeable future, for the next year or so. And then once we get our property, I've learned a lot from David the Good. A lot of you folks have seen that he'll come into live streams, he'll hang out with us a bit, and we're probably going to do some more collaborations together as well. But I was watching one of his videos called Lasagna Gardening. Excellent video, and it gave me great ideas to take crappy soil and turn it into some of the richest soil that you'll ever have on your property, no matter pretty much where you live. He's basically, in his old place where he used to live, he turned clay into soil that could be used to work with. So great video, and I plan on following that step by step. Like I said, there's great information on YouTube. You just that's why I like to share other channels out and share folks that I have a rapport with, because there's just so much great information, and we all need to share this information so that we can become better at what we do. All right, enough of me this. Let's go ahead and dive into the garden. All right, folks, so here I want to show you, okay, so these are my purple hall peas, and a lot of you guys know I've already harvested. Now, to give you an idea, the plant way back there was my first plant. These plants here are all from that plant, from all the beans that I saved, and then I decided to germinate this year because I knew that this plant itself was going to do very, very well. As you can see here, I mean, it's everywhere you look, I got beans coming, and this is just from last year's plant that I took the seeds from, or the beans inside here, and used outside of, for my storage and consumption to repurpose and have more plants. I mean, this thing, if I can pull back a little bit, let me move here, but as you can see, this thing is doing pretty well, I think that's awesome, and it's slowly working itself up the trellis, kind of meeting up here where the tomatoes are kind of coming up at. These are the cherry 100s and the black cherries. But anyways, this is just one idea that you can do, because then I can use these beans here to, of course, next year have more and more crops of purple hall peas. Okay, so let's now talk about these guys here. These are the sweet potatoes. Now, I'm going to zoom in here to the original sweet potato that started this whole thing down here. I don't know if you guys can see that in there. It's out of the ground. I'm trying to back up a little bit, but that was the original there. And all this here has grown due to that. Now, let's kind of like talk about this. So here's a slip. I mean, most of you folks know what a slip is. You know what I mean? Basically, I can be able to cut this slip here, right down here, and plug it into the ground, and it's going to grow. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So basically, let's say you have a pot, right? And you wanted to use a pot instead of something like this here. You can then take slips. I mean, if you dig in here, there's so many that I can just take off, these slips here. You can see in here, there's just so many of them that I could use to grow more sweet potatoes. And that's what I'm trying to show you guys, is that yes, you can start with something simple and then turn it into something that's going to be super affordable by cutting all these slips down in here and making more and more sweet potatoes. Literally, that started with that little sweet potato down here and has evolved into this. Now, of course, we have the hidden strawberry in here, but I'm going to use my other strawberry plant as an example. This was just a kind of like an experiment that I wanted to do. All right, let's go move over to the strawberry plant. All right, folks, so here's the strawberry plant, right? And I'm going to show you something. I'm going to get close to this here, inside here, and see that? This is going to be, I'm going to snip this right about, let me see if I can give you a better look at that. I'm going to snip this right about there, and this is going to give me a whole nother strawberry plant. Back that up so you can see it, but that's going to give me a whole nother strawberry plant. Now I have several of those floating around in here. There's a small one there, and I think I have another one floating around in here somewhere, but you can kind of get the gist of what I'm talking about when it comes to these strawberry plants. Matter of fact, I think I have another one right here next to the other one. So you can see right there, this is going to be 2 more strawberry plants, being that I only purchased 1. So, you know, you kind of learn how to, like, basically get the most bang out of your buck when growing some of these plants. Like I said, this is like my mother strawberry plant, and eventually it'll cease, but I will have these other plants to have more strawberries. So that initial investment is going to do me justice by having more strawberry plants to have more. Basically, if I spent, let's say, $5 on this plant initially as a little plant, now I have all these other plants that I've gotten for free. Hopefully that makes sense, right? All right, and one more that I want to go over is this banana plant here. I spent about $20 on this banana plant years ago, 2 years ago probably to be exact. And like I said, I'm going to do this video because if you look here, now we have this banana plant here. We have another small one down here. We have this one here, and on the back side, we have another one right there. So that kind of shows you now we spent the initial $20 on this plant here. We can back up a little bit so you guys can see. And now we have 4 new banana plants. And again, I'm going to do the video on this plant to show you how to propagate this plant and which ones to look for, because there's different types of the sprouts that you'll get off the banana plant itself. Some are good, some are not so good. But we'll go over that in that video. And last but not least, I want to show you how we, the community here in the Grey community, work. So I've mentioned elderberries on the channel several times, and someone sent me a small, cutting of an elderberry plant. And I want to show you, and this is how we work together as a community. And the elderberry plant, this is a cutting from one of my viewers, and you know who you are. And now the elderberry plant is slowly growing. And eventually I'm going to take this elderberry plant with me, and I'm going to take that plant and of course put it in the ground somewhere, or take a cutting of that and let it proliferate on my property down the road. It kind of works that way with a lot of different plants. So you need to learn what plants work best for you, but I can't wait to start getting elderberries from this plant. And again, thank you to the viewer that sent this to me. I truly appreciate that. Okay, so this last little tidbit really doesn't have nothing to do with the topic that we're discussing here, but I was just so happy to see the size of this eggplant. And this is just about ready for harvest, so I figured I'd show you because I'm probably not going to have enough time to do a harvest video down the road. So we're going to end up pulling this, and it's gorgeous to grow that your own food. I don't know if you folks like eggplants or not. I think we have another on the side here. Where's she hiding at? That is growing right there. And then, of course, you guys know I have my Japanese eggplant. And I guess we can cut over here to the trellis. And you can see the cucumbers plant is flowering tremendously. I don't know if you guys can see all those flowers in there. But she is doing very, very well. And finding her way up the trellis and latching on and growing. And like I said, this didn't cost as much money as buying trellises yourself. Sometimes building things yourself is the best way to go. Anyways, last but not least, we'll kind of do a little close-up of the Japanese eggplant, and those are doing just as well. All right, let's kind of wrap this up, folks. And the Cherry 100 is still producing many, many, many tomatoes, and of course, as you see, it's getting taller than the trellis, but it's doing exactly what I expected it to do. All right, folks, so hopefully that gives you some ideas of how that initial investment might seem to be a little steep at times when you first get into gardening, but the long-term payoff is going to truly benefit you, the gardener, and then less that you have to be dependent on going to, say, the grocery store, or dependent on what's going on around you to grow your own food. And like I said, this is just one component to emergency preparedness outside of, let's say freeze-dried foods, canned goods, and so on and so forth. Food diversity is huge, you know what I mean? And you don't want to keep all your chickens in one basket per se, right? So that being said, you want to have a garden. You want to have canned goods. You want to have freeze-dried foods. And like I said, I know it can be very overwhelming, but to focus in on the gardening, I know some people have asked me like, hey, how much is it going to cost me to do this? How much are the grow bags? How much is this and that? And like I said, with anything that you do in life, there's always that initial upfront cost that might seem a little steep for some, but look, folks, just please do yourself a favor and start somewhere. If you want to start just with like sweet potatoes, go to the store when you go buy sweet potatoes for you and your family, and put one to the side, you know what I mean? And let that develop into a seed plant, as I like to call it, or a mother plant. And then just take your slips from there and just grow sweet potatoes and sweet potatoes and sweet potatoes. If you want to start with one crop, then go for it. And then when you do start with one crop, you want to look for a crop like sweet potatoes, because again, the nutritional value and the caloric density of a sweet potato is something that's going to kind of like, if you're in a situation where you're very, very hungry, that's going to be more of a payoff than, let's say, some tomatoes or some cucumbers and stuff like that. And this goes the same for a lot of other different plants. So you want to start somewhere, look at that. Look at that simple yet effective low cost of a sweet potato plant. And expand from there, folks. Before you know it, you'll have plants everywhere. You'll have that green thumb that'll hit you, and you just want to grow, grow, and grow. So other than that, this is GreyMan, and I want to say, as always, be safe out there. And no, you're not alone, folks. You have myself, the Grey community, and everyone else that's in this awesome situation that we're doing here on the Grey channel. So thank you all. God bless. Be safe. And again, I'll see you guys on a rebound. Take care.